3, 2, 1.
What's up, everybody? Ian Walsh, Hard Money Bankers, joined with my partners Ryan Walsh and Josh Weidman, Hard Money Bankers. What's happening, guys?
Hello.
What's going on?
Guest of the week, guest of the show is Jasmine Williams. Jasmine, how are you?
I'm doing well. How are you all?
Awesome. Good. Just some background for people on, what you do and where you are.
Well, hang on, Ian. I mean, should we address the fact that you're Wilson from Home Improvement right now?
I know we can hardly see you.
I'm trying to rotate my chair to get to it's the stupid banner thing, right? But the market, I can't shift it. All right. Technology is not going to work for me. I'm going to be a boomer in this and say technology doesn't work. So
the show must go on. And here we are.
Okay, we can do this if we need to. Okay.
Well, there you go.
All right. Does that make it? But now it's my dumb face. Now it's my dumb face up here. So it's much better having Jasmine's face in there. So, so Jasmine is KW Empower now in Philadelphia. I've been in the real estate investment and real estate agent scene for about 15 years. Top 10 producer in the KW Philly Empower scene last year, 2023, with a high focus on women in investing, which I think is great. And so thank you for being on the show, Jasmine.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
Did I miss anything?
No, you didn't miss anything. It's just, we're always moving. And we've been Facebook friends forever. And so to be able to have conversation is good.
Good. I'm glad. Yeah, I have. I always know, like sometimes, I'm sure you too. You talk to so many people, and you have so many Facebook friends on Facebook. You're like, you see somebody over and over, and then you get to think you know them, and then you're like,
all right, I know.
You know what I mean? I'm like, I know you.
And it's like, wait a minute,
have we talked? But it's fine. I like when people say, hey, look, you are the person that I see online. I'm like, I think that's good. Because I don't try to be one person offline, one person online. I try to literally just have conversations. So, but yeah, so what's going on with the market? I mean, it's been, these meetings we've been having with people in the real estate space have been pretty active conversations over the past year and a half since interest rates had changed, and now they're talking about softening again. So what's your experience been since the market started to shift?
It's been a roller coaster. I'm sure you've heard that. It's been, hey, yes, let's go sell a lot of real estate, to, hey, okay, no, we're waiting until next year. And so it's been a mixture of a lot of different things. I think that especially in the Philadelphia market, where I invest and where my clients invest primarily, it's just been all over the place. We were getting really, really good numbers with investment properties. And then the numbers were kind of working on the front end, but then when you're looking at refi as far as a DSCR loan or something like that, then it's like, oh wait, this doesn't work. And then we thought, with affordable housing, the rates increase. So we're like, yay, it's gonna help us. And then it did. It was like the neighborhoods changed. So the neighborhoods that were once, in a higher tier are now in like a lower tier where it just didn't even affect it as much as everybody thought it would. So it's been one of those times that you have to be a very savvy investor. You have to know your numbers, because if not, you are going to be screwed.
Yeah, we see it. We saw part of the washout that occurred was, at least in our space, was lenders that were too aggressive on their numbers in an upswing market. And, the market, this is what we always kind of live by, is like the market will cover up mistakes on the way up, right? Like you make a mistake and then it goes up 20 grand and it covers up your 20 grand mistake. But as soon as that softens or that hiccups, you no longer are in a position where, like you said, you got to know your numbers. So, what are you focused on right now? Like, what do you see the most movement in? Like, where's your day-to-day activity right now in this market?
So really day-to-day activity is is of course client acquisition. So of course what we do is we empower women and train them and coach them on how to invest in real estate. So we partner with guys like you to get them the funding that they need, but also train them on the numbers, right? I think a lot of women don't enter the market because we don't feel as secure with the numbers. The other thing is the contractor piece. But what I've been talking to a lot of guys. Of course, I've been in this forever, so I know. And everybody's like, no, the contracting part is not a woman thing. That's like a global thing when it comes to contractors as investors. Yeah. And so, I wanted to create a space where women felt, one, like secure enough to ask their questions and get, a really good comprehensive answer. But then in addition to that, be able to take action, because a lot of us, I've had women that have been in my program, for 6 months, and they're like, yeah, I've been talking about investing in real estate for 12 years. Like, you should have did it 12 years ago. Right? No judgment, but it's just like they kind of put it on a shelf. It's like something that you always want to do, or you look at it and, with the surge of like a HGTV, or even like some of the reality that we see on our social media feeds, it's like, oh, well, I can do this. I can go in a house, and we all know that it's not that easy, but they feel empowered that way, but don't necessarily take action. So my day-to-day is just really supporting our clients to make sure that they feel secure of taking that action, partnering with lenders so that they're getting the best deal that could happen for them. And then, really, we have a team that does a lot of cold calling and things like that for us to be able to get leads as far as like actual properties. And so being able to do that, that's really my day-to-day if I had to put a label on it.
Okay.
Jasmine, I got a follow-up question, because you touched on some things here, and I'm on your website on my other screen, so excuse me.
Oh, okay. So you're like, oh, look.
No, I think it's really cool. I think that a lot of the things that you touched on are not unique to women. And like you would not believe, if you go to these networking events, what you end up with is you have a small percentage of people that end up doing all the deals. And there's a lot of people there that they especially if they've been around a while, they're really hesitant to ask the questions, right? And it's like, well, I feel like I should know this. And then, it becomes, well, where do I get the money, and where do I do all of these things? It's nice to have a group that you can identify with and feel comfortable asking those questions. And I think it's great that you provide that environment. It's really important for the space and for investing in general. I think that have small groups where you can, be heard.
Yeah, absolutely. And we have experts come in. So it's not just my voice that you're hearing. So you're hearing from, where you're hearing from lenders, you're hearing from bankers, you're hearing from accountants, attorneys, like make up our teams are coming into the community, and it's a no sales environment. So it's not like, oh, you have to buy, or you don't feel any pressure. You feel free to just ask questions. And what I find is that a lot of people don't necessarily have access. And so because of that, they don't feel secure or confident enough to pull the trigger on an investment, because they're like, well, I don't really know an attorney. I don't have a family attorney, or I don't have an accountant. I do my taxes myself, like that type of thing. And not that you absolutely 100% need that when you're starting, but I don't know about you all, but if I had those things when starting out, it would have been a lot easier coming up than like not having those things and having to like scramble to get it 4 properties in, and so for sure, kind of doing that setup is what we really do in our group, in our community.
It's funny. The team thing is always an interesting concept for me. Part of, because you have to really, I think when you're starting out, is like decide if the team that you're putting together is you giving yourself an excuse not to take action because you're forming your team, or if you're actually doing this because you're like, I'm taking action, and I also, now that I'm taking action, I need like an attorney, and I need this, I need that. Right. So I found that people can use like the team building part as like,
like the crutch.
A crutch, or like a comfort level to be like, oh no, I'm getting into it. I'm doing it. I'm just building my team. I'm building my team.
Right. And that's the thing. It's like you said, just kind of doing that jump and not getting like that, burnout and that fatigue of, over analyzing. Okay, I'm going to look at these properties and I'm just going to look at them. And I'm like, stop looking at them. Like, let's go ahead and, take some action. That really just helps when you're in a supportive environment, right? Because again, if you're trying to figure out like how to, meet the attorney, I knew that was going to happen. I'm so sorry.
You said attorney and the dog just went off.
Yeah. It's a key word for the dog, attorney, and just loses it.
My daughter just came in, so I'm sure that's why. But yeah, so doing that and making sure that having the team already there. Those people, if you don't want to use them, it's fine. But at least like not saying like, oh, I don't know so and so, or I don't know this. Like, there's no excuse because these people are like literally living in our community there to ask questions and support.
Yeah, it's nice having like vendors and team players. So like now, like, at one point I was like, oh, the team in my head, through my career, I would think, oh, the team, yeah, we'll find somebody who'll do this. But now we're at a point with our business that I'm like, the people that we work with and the team that we have or whatever, like, they're worth their weight in gold. Like, my gosh, like there's like, it's crazy. So if you have the right players in there, it definitely takes a load off the table. But
and doing that preparation, so a part of it, we go through like a 12-week intensive where you're pulling those pieces together, especially the contractors. So a lot of us know contractors, but we've never, some women are homeowners, some are not. And so they're like, well, I've never had to use a contractor before. Okay, so how do you vet a contractor, right? And just kind of going through those pieces in a secured environment where you're able to test some things out. We do small things like, hey, do you have a small project that you need to get done at home? Use them for that, because a lot of times what we find with contractors is that they show up the same way no matter what. And that's most people, right? So they show up. If you're going to show up and, hang some wallpaper in my powder room, that's the way you're going to show up when you do a bigger project. And so just trying to like get that comfort level there, because what we found, we do a webinar weekly, and every week there is, I don't know, maybe 70 to 100 women on that webinar. So that means that there's people, and these are new women in a lot of cases, and they definitely want to know. They want to learn. They also want to learn from someone who looks like them. So that talking about my journey and what I had to go through. You hear the grand dog and my kids and what I'm setting up for them. It's like, okay, let's go ahead and you can do this too, and just with some systems.
Yeah, I like it. Do you have what's the biggest hurdle? I think you said it earlier, but what's the biggest hurdle that you run into with when women come into these groups, and they're like, what's the biggest sticking point? You're always like, they're always bringing this to the table. That is
mindset is the biggest thing.
What's the mindset?
Mindset, meaning their mindset is not necessarily there yet, meaning I have to mold their mindset to know that they can get this done.
It's a lack of like confidence. It's a lack of confidence.
Yeah, confidence.
Okay.
The steps. I mean, you guys know that once you get your little your routine down, investing is not that hard. Once you get your math in, and things like that, it's really, of course, locating deals is probably the second thing of really getting, especially in our market in Philadelphia, like tying down really, decent deals and still having meat on the in the deal and things like that. But really just the mindset of that you can do it. And that is something that I feel like is our hardest thing.
It always blows my mind. There's people every day that are buying and flipping houses and buying rental properties and buying large commercial buildings. Right. Yeah. And I mean, I coach some high school sports, right? Oh, cool. And like developing athletes, they get all these skills, right? And the skills develop way faster than performance. And almost all of the time, it's the same kind of thing. You can know how to evaluate a deal, screen a contractor, hire somebody, paperwork, everything, have the, all the resources. But if you don't pull that trigger, a lot of times it's just because you don't believe you can do it. Even though you might say you can believe it, in actual execution, sometimes it just doesn't come together. It's unfortunate.
It is unfortunate. And that's why it's you had mentioned before about like some of the struggles are the same. And the reason why I focus mostly on women is because I think that while the struggles are some similar, I think that we do have some unique struggles that we're going through of like, oh my God, if my husband's not aboard, then I can't do it, right? Or if I didn't grow up with knowing that this is a thing, then I don't know, like our wealth gap between the two sexes is huge. So that means that there's something there that we want to try to bridge into. And that's why we exist.
I think one of the nice things about real estate investing in general, and you see it across the board, I mean, there's more millionaires in real estate. Everybody's heard that than any other thing, but it's that the barrier to entry, like if you know your market and you learn to market, that's what people always say. Like, what would you recommend, Ian, that we do first? I said, learn to market and learn your market. Do those two things. Yeah. And then I think about it and I'm like, you know what? It's also real estate is like, once you have those two things down, it's the great equalizer because you could be white, black, female, male. It doesn't really matter because when you have a deal, you can be 19.
Education doesn't matter. None of that.
Education doesn't matter because all the clients that we have that I've had over the years, whether it was like property management or wholesaling, whatever. I mean, there's people that barely speak English, that come from Israel, that come in and they're, they have these crazy, amazing deals that they make because the numbers work. So like when they find the numbers,
it doesn't have a gender or color on it.
No, there's no like, you don't have to have some sort of like,
green. Green is the only color we all
green. Right? That's my name. That's it.
Oh yeah. Oh, there we go. It fits right in.
But it also is the exposure, though, Ian, because again, most people know that they've lived and grown up in a home, but if you were forever in a place where your parents rented and you just saw your parents paying rent to somebody, you don't realize that you could be that landlord. And so the exposure to that side and knowing like, hey, how I kind of ease into it is, hey, what is the biggest bill you have outside of your mortgage? And so most people say like their car note or something like that. I'm like, what if the car note could just be covered by a rental property so you don't have to pay it? And like, oh, that would be awesome, right? And so then we just build from there. Or, for instance, my daughter is in college. And so it's like, hey, college is completely paid for. She doesn't have to go to, she doesn't have any student loans. And our midterm rental pays for her college education. Would you like to set something like that up for your kids? Absolutely. Okay. So like you kind of got to break it down and come in a different way to convince them that this is the way to do it, because in some cases they haven't been exposed to knowing that they could be on the other side of collecting and not the payer.
Yeah, that's that also is that's the mindset thing you were talking about, right? And that's a super good point, because I think that probably has more to do, it has a lot to do with like just where you come from, right?
Sure,
like whether again, like sex doesn't matter, color doesn't matter, because you could be, but it's probably what you're talking about is more of like you see a lot more exposure to people that maybe struggled financially growing up and they're breaking out of that space.
But even that, it's like, when you listen to, I've gotten a chance to listen to your podcast or even listen to other podcasts that are real estate based. Most of us come from like a really humble beginning of like, we just wanted to get out. We wanted to just figure life out and things like that. And so that is the thing. It's just that exposure is like, how do you even know that that's a thing until you like, point. Go to these REI meetups and, things like that. Like, I think there's the guy that's hosting Bigger Pockets now. He's like, he his beginnings were like, I just kind of was like, I wanted to do a little something. So I started putting money in. Like, it was just like, it's used, like everybody that I've met in real estate investing has always been like, oh yeah, I was just thinking like, I'll just rent out rooms in my home or, something very humble. And then it grew into something, even larger.
The wheels start turning and then you're off to the races. Yeah.
Right.
And I think like a lot of times people too are like I think Josh mentioned earlier, like they have the skill sets, and really the skill sets a lot of times is like the motivation. And then once you give them the exposure to the tool sets, you're like, you just let the motivation run. I mean, I knew for me for a long time, I mean, as you grow, your motivation changes and stuff. But, I was money hungry and there was nothing that was going to that door was getting knocked down for me to get to money in front of me. Right. So, but if I didn't have the exposure, it was just give me the outlet, like give me the path, give me the road, give me the tools, and then I can make what I can of it. I'm going forward. And I bet you have so many people in that room that come,
They just,
70 people out of, in that room
Yeah.
every week. There are women in there that are like, just give me a little bit of a blueprint. I have the motivation and drive, and you're not going to stop me. Right. I'm sure you have people.
Absolutely. And that's really what it turns out to be. It's just the motivation. Like I said, the steps are going to be the same. The steps that I teach are the same steps that you're going through, and, other investors, things like that. It's the steps are there. It's just the motivation to say, yes, you can do this. The confidence you have, you can go ahead and move forward. It does take a team, but don't let that hold you up. And if the team is the thing that's holding you up, let's aggressively go ahead and start building that team, because we do need a team. Like, this is not a solo sport. It's definitely a team thing that you need, but it's, getting that motivation and doing it in 12 weeks. It used to be a program that was a year, but people were taking a year, and then towards the end, they're like, oh my goodness, I gotta go and freshen and
Right.
So now it's condensed down so that it's like, okay, you have all your deliverables. We put together like a design book so that you don't have decision fatigue, so that you are able to know, you have your SKUs of like where to get the light bulbs and the switches and all the things.
Nice.
Everything is together. So then that way, now when you're dealing with a contractor, I think the biggest thing with contractors are, because you don't know what you're doing or what you want, they're like, well, how am I supposed to know? So we put together like a little bit of a base plan. So then it's like, okay, now you could just hand this over to your contractor of what you use, and then they are better explained, and now you're able to go ahead and move forward. And that has been a game changer for all of the women, because they're like, well, how do I even pick this stuff out? We have VAs that support them in the program, so that they can go ahead and get the things done, because most of the women are not entrepreneurs. They're 9 to 5. So they may be, we have a couple doctors and a lot of nurses, folks like that are really busy, but they want to get this done. So we support them along the way with building this out.
Awesome. I mean, you guys have a great program, and I think what you're doing is a great niche. And this has been a great talk. I'm glad we did this.
Yeah, absolutely. And for sure.
So anybody that wants to contact you, I think that's your IG in your signature. And we also have your email scrolling across the bottom. And so thanks again, Jasmine, and we will be in touch.
No problem. Thanks so much.
All right. Thanks, Jasmine.